Crossed into the net by Kylian Mbappé.
Oh, Benyera, beautifully done.
Cornet finds Dembélé. The first touch is good. The second is deadly.
Neymar still. Oh my word, what a goal.
Golovin. Lovely finish. Ajax delivery. Gendouzi's header.
Here's an opportunity. Sanchez.
Outrageous goal from Gael Kakuta. Payet again. And Dolberg. Messi again. This time maybe Messi's done it.
201, 201. That's right, today we celebrate the number 201. Whether it be 201 Teji Savigny nutmegs, 201 Marco Verratti yellow cards, 201 Frederic Antonetti blow-ups, 201 VAR red cards, 201 Nicola Palois tackles, 201 Gaëtan Laborde diving headers, 201 Jonathan Close cutbacks, or marauding runs from Seko Fofana. But of course, we're talking about 201 Paris Saint-Germain goals for Kylian Mbappé. Thank you, Kiki, for showing us the true value of this magical number. Bonjour, everyone. Welcome to Le Beau Jeu, the official Ligue 1 podcast, all in English, for you to celebrate all things 201 this week. I'm Robbie Thomson, back in the hot seat after regular host Ian Holyman picked up another little niggling family commitment and is unavailable for today's recording. However, I am pleased to say I'm joined by two regulars who always lift for the big occasion on the Côte d'Azur. Luke Entwhistle is here. Luke, how did you enjoy your weekend of Le Ballon Rond?
Bonjour. Yes, happy to be on. It was an interesting weekend, wasn't it? I mean, it felt as though important action kind of finished on Saturday, and it feels as though I don't know, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the title challenge that lasted about a week, maybe about 6 days, that title challenge, it felt as though it lasted. It was nice while it lasted, but it feels like a distant memory now.
Andy Scott is also with us. Andy, I know you were at the Parc des Princes. How did you experience the big night of Kiki's record for Paris Saint-Germain? Did you ever realise the number 201 would be associated with such fanfare?
Good morning, Robbie. Yeah, I wasn't expecting what happened at the end after the game finished when they had this remarkable presentation, on the pitch. The thing about that goal, which obviously we'll come to later, is it happened right at the end of the game. So I was writing a match report on the match, and I was literally at the point of writing the paragraph saying, about Kylian Mbappé not getting the record, and then he scores the goal, and well, then it was just obviously rewriting it conveniently at the very end of the game to make it about that. So it was it was a fun night at the Parc des Princes, and I mean, obviously, a privilege, I suppose, to be there to see what was I don't want to play it up too much. I don't recall Edinson Cavani having the same treatment when he became the club's all-time top scorer. I don't recall him getting a trophy on the pitch. Maybe my memory just doesn't go back that far, but nevertheless, Kylian Mbappé, what player?
Times have changed, Andy Scott. We're moving forward at a rate of knots. I don't remember there being much fanfare for Bernard Lecombe's 255 Ligue 1 goals, maybe, or even Pedro Pauletta's 109 for Paris Saint-Germain. But I do have an interesting story about Edinson Cavani's big number 200. So remind me when we're talking about Kiki and his trophy, and we will talk about that later on in the show. We are going to talk about Paris Saint-Germain's 4-2 win over Nantes. We're also going to talk about Marseille's near-faltering league tilt after a bad week, as Luke Entwhistle just told us. You're listening to Le Beau Jeu. Like, subscribe, follow us on all your podcast platforms. Get involved in the conversation on Twitter as well at Ligue1_ENG for English. There's the official Ligue 1 website, ligue1.com. And of course, you can catch all the video highlights as well on that website, or listen to us and check out the highlights on the league's official YouTube channel as well. Well, we start our wrap-up of round 26, match day 26 of the Ligue 1 season, where Rennes were entertaining Olympique de Marseille in the final match of the round. It was earlier today. If you're on this side of the world, if you're back in France, it was late last night, and Armel Tanguy was calling all the action.
And the ball rolling with Marseille. Can they react after what has been a very difficult week for Igor Tudor's men? Beaten 3-0 by Paris Saint-Germain last Sunday. and then knocked out of the Coupe de France by Annecy in midweek. A reaction is a must this evening. Truffert finding Amine Gouiri, who opens up his boots, finds the crossbar. Truffert into Gouiri. It's a very central finish, but it had the power and the swerve to cause Pau Lopez problems, and that it did. Couldn't find the net though. Amine Gouiri, Truffert is on his left. Karl Toko Ekambi is on his right. And Karl Toko Ekambi unable to finish. A brilliant chance for the Bretons. Lovely play from Gouiri. Not sure it even took a touch on its way through. It's a left-footed stab by Toko Ekambi. It was saved by Pau Lopez. Dimitri Payet among the substitutes won't be delivering this one. Taken quickly, Malinovsky into Kolasinac at the back post. And almost against the run of play, it's Olympique de Marseille who go 1-0 up. Worked out wide for Ibrahim Salah. Can he deliver? Matelier looking at his watch. Salah's ball in. Thiat's back post. It's into the arms of Pau Lopez. And surely that's it now for Marseille.
Well, Luke, you were just talking about the title race that lasted all of 6 days. It looked like it was dead and buried at half-time in this one last night, but Marseille did manage to get the goal. You'd probably say against the run of play, but it was a match that didn't really hit the heights because Rennes are faltering a little bit at the moment as well, aren't they?
They had the few chances in the first half. Gouiri, hitting the crossbar. Probably should have done better with his chance, and a couple of other half chances falling their way. But yeah, ultimately quite an underwhelming match, I think. Given the stature of the two sides, Marseille really, really needed a win after that awful. I mean, we've not had the chance to talk about it, but that awful Coupe de France exit at the hands of Annecy after having beaten Rennes and having beaten PSG as well. So that, would you even call that? I wouldn't necessarily call them a hurdle. They've over the hurdles and they've tripped up on the home straight kind of thing. So a really necessary win, and I think that one where you can look at Igor Tudor and say he really got that right. There's a couple of interesting calls, I'd say, in that Marseille side in terms of his lineup choice, but all of them, it seems, warranted in the end. And in the second half, they seemed to just kind of kill the game a little bit, control it, took their one chance, which of course wasn't without its controversy. Personally, I was for, the referee not trying to exert too much control of the game, let them take the free kick quick. So I was happy that he let that go. One big chance, scored it, very efficient.
Andy, Luke brings up a very good point, which was that after such a stunning week for Marseille 2 weeks ago, this one came sort of apart at the seams, and you were there in midweek for that game against Annecy. There was a huge crowd there. It was midweek football, 65,000. They thought they were kings of the world. And all of a sudden, they really should have been. We know they haven't won a trophy in 11 years, or is it longer now? No, about that. And Olympique Lyonnais is still there. It was going to be like a throwback to a previous Qatar era of French football with Lyon, possibly taking on Marseille in the final of the Coupe de France. How did you see that strange night, because they were in front and looked like they were cruising as well?
Yeah, they were cruising, and I think possibly the problem was that they thought they were a bit too comfortable. 1-0 up at halftime, it could have been more. And the feeling in the stadium, the feeling I had was that there was, and I think I said this in commentary, that you have to wonder how on earth Annecy could possibly have got back into the game, and then suddenly they by the hour mark they were 2-1 up, and I think everybody was just completely shell shocked. Nobody had seen this coming, and when you think back to the previous round of the Cup, I was at the game against Paris Saint-Germain in the previous round, and my hotel was on the Vieux-Port in Marseille, and when I got back to my hotel, they were literally setting off fireworks on the Vieux-Port, celebrating that win. There were cars driving around the port, beeping their horns. There was police there trying to keep things calm. Now, obviously, I'm not saying I think it's fine to celebrate a win against your great rivals, but you are kind of setting yourself up for a fall when you do that in the Cup, and then the next round you go out. So, a disaster, an absolute disaster for Marseille. Everything about that Cup game. They got the penalty with 5 minutes to go. The stadium went mad. They thought, this is us saved. Then they missed the penalty. Then they scored the 96th minute with a goal from François Régis Moug, a player that probably, of the 65,000 people in the stadium, 63,000 had never heard of before the game kicked off. And then they go to penalties and they still lose. So humiliating, embarrassing. The front page of the local newspaper La Provence the next day was, une honte. La honte, I think, was the headline. And that kind of sums it up. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating. And to pick themselves up to go to Rennes and win is actually a really impressive result, because that is a very difficult place to go. Rennes had won 11 out of 13 home games this season prior to that match. I know Rennes have their problems, but great result for Marseille. I'm not suggesting that the title race is on again, but I think it's a big win for them in the push for a top 3 place. But yeah, I mean, to go out of the cup, I think is a huge setback, because let's not forget, Marseille have a great cup history. They've won it 10 times. Only PSG have won it more times, and that's only because of what they've done in the last decade, really, dominating that particular competition. But Marseille hadn't won it since 1989, and they still haven't won the cup since 1989. So huge missed opportunity for them. I thought it might have taken them a little bit longer to get over it. So to go there, go to Rennes and win that game, I think that shows great character. And really, I think is representative of the real Marseille, because that performance against Annecy midweek, I would say, was not the real Marseille. I think that was completely unexpected.
Well, Marseille are now 8 points behind Paris Saint-Germain. That perhaps is a one bridge too far for them in the league. But they are now 4 points ahead of Monaco. And we're going to have a chat about Monaco a little bit later as well, because, as you say, getting those big wins away to Rennes is not necessarily to keep you in the hunt for the title, but to secure that second place and automatic qualification for the Champions League. Luke, talking about European football next season, it looks now, with Marseille out, as though the Cup will go to a side, or could very well go to a side, that finishes outside the top 5, which means that 6th place will not be European qualification this season. So Rennes, for the moment, are holding on, but the likes of Nice and Lille, and dare we say it, Reims, I don't know if we should, is that really possible? But they are coming back strong. Are Rennes looking over their shoulder now? It's 5 points above them to Lens. I'm not sure they're still in that discussion. And now it's only 1 point back to Lille.
I mean, they should definitely be looking over their shoulder at this point. I think on the evidence of what Lyon have displayed over a number of months, if not years, I don't think you can count on them to put together a consistent run to really make a push for that top 6 place, which would then open up that 6th place again for European qualification. So yeah, Rennes definitely looking over their shoulder. I like what Lille are proposing currently. I think under Fonseca, they're looking better week on week. So I think that they're a proper danger now. I kind of ruled them out as a real challenger for that 5th place, but I think that they're right in it. Nice faltering against a relegation struggling side, but still unbeaten under Digard. They're thereabouts, and they've got some great individual talent in that squad right through their spine. And then Reims, I mean, that's the incredible story of the season, arguably unbeaten since September, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. So I think you definitely have to count them as part of this race. So something really interesting to keep our eyes out for in these coming weeks to see who will get that final place or 2. Because I think that Lens are also, despite the fact they've got a little bit of a buffer, I think they're probably looking over their shoulder a little bit as well. So maybe 2 places up for grabs between 5-6 teams potentially. So it could get quite interesting.
Well, there's 12 matches left. Andy, a final word on this Rennes v Marseille. When they first came around to meet this season, we were calling it the Steve Mondondico. He was injured that day and missed out on his first ever match. You don't remember? Well, here he finally got to play against Marseille for the first time in his career after being such a loyal servant. It didn't work out for him, but a special occasion all the same, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, Steve Mandanda getting on to be 38 later this month. He's had a fantastic career. Probably a bit strange for him to come up against the club he represented for, what was it, about 14 years, 15 years. But I think Steve Mandanda is a wonderful professional, and the overriding feeling for him this morning will be disappointment that Rennes didn't get a result, because I think he will be really, really desperate to be playing in Europe next season with that Rennes team. I know he's coming to the end of his career. He recently retired from the national team, but I think he'll be hoping to stay playing at a high level for a while yet, and he'll be determined to help Rennes get into Europe. And he's been an excellent signing for them. But what we're seeing with Rennes is what happens when you lose one or two really big players and you struggle to bounce back from that. We say it every week, Martin Terrier is not there and Rennes are not as good, and that's a problem for them because there's a lot of competition around them for these European places, and they're hanging on at the moment to a place in the top 5.
Other sides that are eyeing off enviously those higher places. Let's have a look at some other results. Lens versus Lille, the Derby du Nord, and it finished 1-1. Both sides were hoping for more. They could have secured or closed the gap in those top 5 race, but José Font scored an own goal, the 39-year-old defender, and Jonathan David levelled it up, taking his tally to 16 for the season, the Canadian goal machine. A passionate evening, as it always is, that one at Félix Bollard. Elsewhere, Stade de Reims defeated Ajaccio by 1-0. Stunning late strike from their Swedish substitute, Jens Kajust, in the final minute of the match, the final seconds. They are now 18 undefeated. And side note on this one, and I know Andy and Luke, you weren't commentating this match, but did you see the goal and did you see the celebration? Because he did the old, what happened? Did I just do that? Statue type celebration. I haven't seen a player keeping it that cool in the 95th minute just about ever. What was that all about?
I didn't see the celebration.
I did see it.
I just saw the goal. I just saw the goal, but fabulous goal by Jens Kajust. A good player.
He is. He came off the bench. Luke, what did you make of that?
I don't know which side to fall on. I do kind of quite like that nonchalant kind of celebration, like I do this all the time kind of thing. Yeah, I'm very, very for it, especially in the 95th minute when all your instincts are telling you to go berserk, and you kind of just, whatever.
Exactly. He all he really did was confirm that Kasper Dolberg is not alone and that ice runs through the veins of Scandinavian footballers. I think that was the takeaway that we all took from this. It was interesting. It went to VAR, the decision, and even then he didn't react at all. The goal got given. He just looked to the bench and winked, and then as the final whistle goes, he finally clenched his fist and looked like he was going to celebrate a little bit. Anyway, it was another great win for Reims, who are right there now in the mix. They are on an incredible run. They're up to 8th. They've overtaken Lorient, for example, who were sitting second in the midway point of the season. They're above Olympique Lyonnais as well. They are on the charge. Montpellier, they are the new Jekyll and Hyde side of this competition. They are up one week and down the other. They have Derzac back, and they are 5-0 winners over an Angers side that are really struggling now. Angers probably can't wait for the end of the season. There were 2 goals from Savanier, who got them started from the penalty spot. Eli Wahi scored one of the strangest goals you will see. It ended up being a fantastic goal, but basically the ball was cleared up the sideline and rolled along the touch line of the pitch in front of both benches, with no players coming to get it, all thinking that it was going to go out for a throw. In the end, Eli Wahi picked the ball up on the halfway line, ran the length of the field, and scored a great goal. Will that be enough for Montpellier to save their skin? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I would say so. I think they're in the ventre mou now, which I think, given how it was at the start of the season, is quite impressive. Dezacquerons really turned that around quite quickly, so positive.
Absolutely, and a fantastic use of a French football term there, Luke, because we do love that. And le ventre mou, the soft stomach of the Ligue 1 table. It's a fantastic Frenchism. Next up, we're going to have a chat about Troyes versus Monaco. Troyes are not in the soft stomach of the Ligue 1 standings, and neither are Monaco. They are at opposite ends of that digestive tract. And unfortunately for Troyes, it doesn't smell good. And here's what happened.
Promising this for Troyes. Rami finds Kouame, drives forward, beats a couple. Kouame, that's sensational! Troyes have the leads at the Stade de l'Aube, and it's a piece of individual brilliance there. Roaming Kouame, that was cleared from Caio Henrique. Adel Rami picks it back up. It's just a simple ball into Kouame, and he does the rest. Through Golovin and Fofana too easily. What a strike on the left foot. And Troyes have a precious lead. Mbolo. Chance, Mbolo cut back. for Ben Yedder, and Monaco do find. And Monaco grab an equaliser. It's Mbolo's cutback, a good block initially, but Wissam Ben Yedder, Monaco's top goal scorer, at it again. What looked like a famous double for Troyes, now in jeopardy. Can they find a winner? Golovin finds Ben Yedder. Offside. I think it's initially given against Golovin. Stephanie Frappart listening to the video assistant referee. This could be huge for both sides in their season. And the goal's been given. Wissam Ben Yedder at the double. And Monaco, they've rescued this game late on here. You can see what it means to them. Led by their captain Ben Yedder. Monaco, they've turned this one around. 5 minutes added on. Here's Conte's ball. Ugbo! What a huge goal that could be for Troyes. Ike Ugbo. And from the depths of despair, looking like this game had got away from them, Troyes finds a late equaliser, and that could be massive in their hunt for survival in Ligue 1. What a cross it is from Abdou Conte. And Ugbo with the bullet header. Nubel gets a touch, but he can't keep that one out. Monaco came from behind to lead, and they could have thrown it away. What an end to this game.
Was almost a return to winning form for them under their Australian coach Patrick Kisnorbo. It was an incredible seesawing battle. Troyes were up, then Wissam Ben Yedder took his tally to 16 goals. The captain, it's been an up and down season for Wissam Ben Yedder as well. He got 2. There was some controversy as well about a potential offside call, and it was another last-minute goal, this time by Ugbo with a fantastic header. Luke, we'll start with you as our man on the Côte d'Azur. Troyes weren't expected to put up this kind of resistance, were they?
No, I mean, Monaco are in a rough patch of sorts. I mean, last season the rough patch was before March, and from March onwards it was absolutely brilliant. This time it seems as though they're hitting their rough patch at such a critical part of the season, which is slightly worrying, certainly for Philippe Clement. Obviously, that's a loss against Bayer Leverkusen, which dumps them out of the Europa League. It's a loss against Nice, and that was a resounding defeat. And, this draw is very underwhelming. They had the chances to really put this game beyond Troyes in the first half, didn't. And, just quite worrying, really. I mean, there's plenty of goals still in this side, but they're just leaking goals at the other side of the pitch. And I think that Alexander Nubel, whose loan ends at the end of the season, I know there was a desire at some point to make that permanent, but he's just not proven decisive in key moments in matches. I mean, that late Ugbo header, you'd expect a top quality goalkeeper to keep that out and make a difference. And for so many weeks now, he's not really making a difference in that Monaco goal. So potentially a change coming there. And just slightly worrying signs in the defence where there are quite a few absentees that needs to be pointed out as well. So they need to quickly get back to winning ways, even though, as I said, Lens, the wheels seem to be coming off there as well. So they should still have that third place wrapped up.
Well, there is everything to play for, apart from maybe first place, but for the European places and also for relegation. Andy, it's a very good point for Troyes, probably one they weren't necessarily banking on when you see how recent weeks have gone. They're only 2 points from safety now. Considering how the last sort of 2.5 months have gone, is this a chance, something to build on, some way of trying to claw their way back out?
I mean, you're 2 points from safety, but they've taken 2 points from the last 27 available. So, I don't know how easily they're going to sort of start racking up wins. It's been not the best start for Patrick Kisnorbo. I think you and I would both like to see him do well. Patrick Kisnorbo, obviously an Aussie. He played in Scotland for Hearts. And now here he is managing in Ligue 1, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure that he's going to be able to keep Troyes in the division. 2, I'm not convinced that Kisnorbo will be there all that long, because that's just the nature of it, and it's been a very difficult start for him. I mean, they got rid of the previous coach because they weren't happy with the way results were going, but there has not been an improvement. That's an excellent result to get a draw against Monaco, but we'll have to see if they can start winning games. They've not won since they beat Strasbourg on the 2nd of January. 9 games since then. that's just the second point. So I think to see them anywhere other than in the bottom four at the end of the season, I think is unlikely.
Time for the weekly reminder that it is 4 that go straight down on this unusual Ligue 1 season, because only 2 are coming up. They're changing the number of sides in Ligue 1 next season to 18 teams, so there's no playoff match either. At the moment, it's Angers on just 10 points. We're going to have a very brief, well, we've chatted about how badly they're doing. They are equaling, I think it's Brest from 1980, as a side with only 10 points after 26 matches. It is a truly shocking season for Le Scout.
I thought you were going to say something else there, Robbie.
Troyes, with twice as...
I thought you were going to say another word beginning with SH there, but...
Shocking, truly shocking. Troyes have double the points of Angers, but are still in the relegation zone with 20 points. Then Ajaccio 21, Auxerre 22, and then out of the relegation zone at the moment on goal difference, because there are some pretty sort of eye-watering goal differences there in the bottom half of in that relegation zone as well. Angers minus 37, Troyes minus 21, Ajaccio minus 27, Auxerre minus 26. Above them, Strasbourg and Brest, who are not necessarily with more points, but considerably better goal differences, are sitting outside, but from 15th to 19th, covered by just 3 points. So 3 of those 5 are going to go down. The question is, who will survive? Nice, 1-1 with Auxerre. Gaëtan Laborde missed a penalty, but then scored a fantastic diving header. Nice are still unbeaten under Didier Digard. He's no Will Still, but that's now 9 Ligue 1 matches without defeat for Didier Digard. Gauthier got Ajaccio a very precious point. Now, I have heard that is said Hein, or Hein, but it is how we'd spell the question mark word in French, which is huh? So that's, but he has been scoring a couple of very good goals, and Auxerre now unbeaten in 3 with 2 wins, climbing out of the drop zone, as we just said, on goal difference. Things looking good for them. Toulouse got back to losing ways, unfortunately for them. That's 3 on the trot now for them against Clermont. Excellent win for Clermont, who climb above them up into 11th. Just seems about a month ago, Toulouse looked like they were stopping the rot and climbing back up, but Clermont, who were one of the early season impressing sides, are now trying to climb back into that soft stomach of the Ligue 1 standings. Strasbourg got back to losing ways as well, beaten 1-0 by Brest in what was really the match of fear, a real 6-pointer. Huge result for Brest on the road. The Pirates climbing above Strasbourg, and they remain, though, as one of those 5 looking to avoid joining Angers in Ligue 2 next season. Final result that we're going to look at quickly before turning our attentions to Mr. 201, Kylian Mbappé. Olympique Lyonnais and FC Lorient. A scoreless draw, disappointing for both sides, but pretty much summing up where they both are at the moment. Certainly Olympique Lyonnais putting all their eggs in the Coupe de France basket. And Lorient, well, I think they have enjoyed their season so far under Le Brice, their young coach, and they are now looking to... Well, they don't want to ruin all the good work from the first half of the season, but they are very much sitting in that middle part of the table now. Well, now it is time to chat about Paris Saint-Germain and their big win over FC Nantes. It was another roller coaster ride of it, and to take us through it, it was Matt Spiro on the microphone.
Messi. Ruiz now. Space for Nuno Mendes. The cross comes in and Messi scores! Lionel Messi with the opening goal. PSG's first clear chance of the night has been slotted by Lionel Messi. It's his 13th league goal this season. Let's have a look at the build-up. Messi involved. A little bit too much space from a Nantes perspective there. Nuno Mendes with the cross that was deflected off Santos. Messi gets there ahead of Palois. PSG off to the perfect start here. Messi tackled by Mutusami. No free kick. PSG have still got it. And then moving ominously closer to the Nantes goal. Nuno Mendes saved and turned in. It's an own goal. And Nantes are in all sorts of trouble here. Paris Saint-Germain with 2 early quick-fire goals. It's the youngster Jawen Hadjam, the 19-year-old from Paris, who scores, but unfortunately for him, in the wrong net. It's good build-up play from Paris Saint-Germain. He just sensed that Nantes were backing off somewhat, fearing this PSG attack. Lafont makes one save, but under pressure, Hadjam can only push it with his left knee, I think, into his own goal. Blas to the byline. Oh, it's got in. Ludovic Blas beating Donnarumma, who was anticipating a cross, and the ball has just squeezed inside that near post. Nantes back in the game, thanks to their number 10, Ludovic Blas. Well, he found some space. Vitinha was beaten a little easily. And Donnarumma, you have to say, is at fault there. He's come away from his near post and the ball's been driven in with pace. The Italian not well positioned at all. All credit, though, to Ludovic Blas, who spotted the possibility. And what a good shot that was. Former Montpellier player Florent Mollet to take. PSG having to defend, and it's dangerous, and Nantes have come from 2 goals down to level here at the Parc des Princes. It's Ignatius Ganago, the Cameroonian striker. Well, extraordinary scenes here in the capital. It really did look as though Nantes were dead and buried 20 minutes into this game, but it's now level, and Galtier has got a lot of thinking to do. It's a better delivery from Messi. Mbappe's cross, Danilo's header! PSG back in front. Well, the Nantes players are complaining to the referee, but Danilo has sprinted away to the corner, and he is being congratulated by his teammates. The big Portuguese centre-back with his 2nd goal this season. It's PSG 3, Nantes 2. Moses Simon now for Nantes. Santon's, good cutback from him! And the chance for Ganago, who shot flashes just past that near post. Nantes are still in this contest. They are still fighting. Now Pembele's cross. Surely! Kylian Mbappé has done it! In added time, he makes it 4-2. And in so doing, he becomes Paris Saint-Germain's all-time record goal scorer. Absolutely phenomenal. The 24-year-old moves ahead of Edinson Cavani. He has 201 goals for Paris Saint-Germain. And the Parc des Princes rises as one to salute their superstar, the Paris boy, Kylian Mbappé.
Andy, there's only one place to start with this one, and as you mentioned briefly at the top of the show, it looked for a long time as though Kylian wasn't going to get his 201st goal. Basically, as we just heard, Paris Saint-Germain leading 2-0, 2-2, and then ran away with it in the second half. Kylian is now the undisputed king of Paris. We already kind of knew it, but let's not talk about the goal itself, which was a simple one for a player of that stature, but let's talk about the quality and how we've seen him, because you've seen him develop from Monaco, now 6 seasons at Paris Saint-Germain. How good is this player?
He's quite good, yeah. He's decent. I think I think that Mbappe is well, put it this way, I think Kylian Mbappe is probably the best player in the world now, right? I think that's I think we can say that. I think that what he did at the World Cup, in the World Cup final, would suggest that. And I know Lionel Messi won the World Cup and all the rest of it, and has just won the FIFA Best Awards ahead of Mbappe. But I think this is now Mbappe's age, and I think that when I said at the beginning that, you know, I don't recall there being this fanfare when Edinson Cavani became the club's top scorer. I think at Paris Saint-Germain there is a realization that they have to do everything to make him feel extra special. and every little thing they do might just persuade him to stick around a little bit longer. Now, that in terms of Mbappé staying at PSG, that's a discussion for another day, because he's not going to stay forever. Whether he leaves, this year or next year, remains to be seen. But obviously, they want him to stay for as long as possible. I think it's genuine when Mbappé speaks and he says that he said the other night that this means so much to him to be playing in the capital city of his country, which is his home city, playing for his club, and that makes it extra special. And I think there's definitely an element of truth in that. 201 goals in 247 games is it's not bad, is it? And Edinson Cavani got there in just under 300 games, so it's taken Mbappé less time. It's taken him about a year less time in terms of, Cavani was there from 2013 to 2020. Mbappe's taken 5.5 years. So he's an extraordinary footballer, and when he does, his goal at the weekend, you're right, it was just another goal. When he does something really special, he is absolutely electrifying. There is not another footballer like him. And it's what he's done this season in the World Cup, as well as with PSG, is just him moving to that next level. He's been doing it for years. He scored incredible goals. You mentioned earlier on, we'll get to, you mentioned, the best moments in his career. I was thinking back to when he was at Monaco in 2017, and when he scored, I think, 6 goals in 6 games in the knockout rounds of that Champions League when he was just 18 before he went to PSG. He's an unbelievable footballer. And I mean, Lionel Messi scored his 700th club goal of his career last weekend against Marseille, which kind of got overlooked because of what Mbappé did in that game. I mean, how many is Mbappé going to score at this race? There are not really the words to describe. He could do better in the air. His heading is not very good. There you go. That's one thing he needs to work on. He's only scored 4 headers out of 201 goals, so maybe he needs to have a long, hard think about his aerial ability. But apart from that, he's pretty good.
I remember when I did the interview when he brought up his 100th goal, and I got him to repeat and say all the things like I think it was 47 goals in the first half, 53 in the second half, 74 right foot, 29, 28 or 26 left foot, 2 headers, and he laughed when he said 2 headers. And yeah, okay, that's something I've got to improve upon. Luke, his improvement has just been the thing. He started down your way at Monaco, but already then we'd known for, I think it was a 12-year-old when Chelsea and Real Madrid were already trying to sign him. He's incredibly ambitious. He's got a great head on his shoulders. This season, it was like a season of records, and he is driven by that as well. He scored PSG's fastest ever goal after 8 seconds. He became the first PSG player to score 5 goals in a game when he did it, albeit against Cassel in the lower amateur divisions. But still, no one else had done it before. He's the one carving up all the records, and he is a machine, but he's also got something very human about him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the way that he broke onto the scene was kind of very fitting in with how he is as a player as well. It was a proper explosive entrance onto the world scene. He really kind of made himself known straight away. And that's how he is as a player. And, all these records go by the wayside on an almost weekly basis. And it's just quite incredible. The ratio at which he's scoring is the best in the French division, I think, since other Frenchmen, since just Fontaine. All the way back down in the Stade de France days in the 60s, so way back, and it's quite incredible what he's doing. And as I say, it is a weekly basis. Every week there's a different Kylian Mbappé stat, how he's broken this, he's broken that. And I think that ambition is something that he has talked about. He said, he wants to be someone who's remembered everywhere he goes, and he'll certainly be remembered at PSG regardless of whether he stays a season or another season. But it does feel for me, and it's maybe one, as Andy said, for a discussion a little bit later down the line. But I do wonder if him breaking this record does maybe precipitate his departure from the Parc des Princes, given that, he'll feel as though, okay, I've made my mark here, or whether he's motivated by the idea of still winning the Champions League with them, which is, their holy grail almost, isn't it? That's what they want. It's what they want every single year. So extremely ambitious. Whether or not that ambition takes him elsewhere away from PSG soon is the question. But I think wherever he goes, he'll just continue to break records and just, I think it's not so controversial a statement anymore. I think we've gradually moved past the Messi, Ronaldo duopoly, and Mbappé now is just the best player in the world. So not so controversial statement anymore.
Just a couple of things. Just wanted to pick up on very quickly on Mbappé. One is that when I was sitting in the stand at the end of the game on Saturday, and they did this presentation on the field, give him a trophy, and then he did kind of a lap of honour of the stadium, and then he came and he sat down and he spoke to your old colleagues at PSG TV who were pitch side, and I wasn't really paying attention because I was working, but he was kind of repeating what he'd previously said, to be honest, on the pitch. But then he started speaking in English, and I think it's just worth highlighting with Mbappé every time that for a young man who has always lived in France, but he is so articulate in French, but he's also very articulate. He's speaking English, fluent English, very articulate, completely calm, at ease, and I think that's worth highlighting because it's not like he's lived in the UK or the US, but he is so at ease speaking in English, and I know he's the same in Spanish, and that's very impressive. And the other thing about Mbappé, which is I think is interesting, is that he is all about electrifying pace. He's a sensational finisher, and what Christophe Galtier said last week was interesting. That it's not just the pace, admittedly, it's the speed of execution in which he does things. But there is going to come a point in Mbappe's career, because not yet, a while away, because he's still only 24, but he will eventually have to adapt his game, because he's not going to have that level of electrifying pace forever. And it will be interesting to see what he does eventually, years down the line, to adapt his game, a bit like Messi has done, and I'm sure he will do it brilliantly, and I'm sure he'll remain a brilliant goal scorer. But I think that's interesting, because what we've seen of Mbappé over the last 6 or 7 years is not going to be. He's not always going to be that player. It will not be possible for him to be like that forever. But it's got him here now, and if anybody's listening who's not seen him play live, I strongly recommend that you try and do it, because there are a few things. There are moments in games where he is just astonishing.
Yeah, it's true, and I think, Andy, you touch on an interesting point about the physicality, because great footballers, and this is something I think that gets occasionally overlooked as well, is that almost all famous, fantastic footballers are physical phenomenons. You look at even the Brazilian Ronaldo; they're the ones that manage to marry incredible physical traits. They are stronger and faster in general than other players, and manage to marry that with fantastic technique and a football brain. There are rare, and I think they really are rare. I think I'm trying to think of who's a purely cerebral footballer and who didn't have physicality. The first one I'm thinking is someone like Dennis Bergkamp, but it's probably more that he was just so cerebral. Yeah. He was still physically incredibly impressive as well, but just like an intellectual footballer. But David Ginola, when he left here, was physically a beast. Thierry Henry was all about pace and exploding, just ripping sides apart. These players that made their mark, Didier Drogba, so big and strong, and yet also able to manage it with being a fantastic footballer. And I don't think Kylian Mbappé, or look at Haaland now at Manchester City, there was a period, there was a train of thought where you'd say, that player's just got speed, just got pace. But it's not the case with the truly elite. I don't think you can they will adapt. He will adapt the way he plays the game as he gets older, when he's not the fastest player on earth.
Of course. Of course. I think though, because it's interesting you mentioned Ronaldo, because Brazilian Ronaldo, because I think Mbappé there are elements of Ronaldo to his game, quite big elements of Ronaldo to his game, and I think Thierry Henry, obviously there are elements of Thierry Henry to his game, but and Ronaldo obviously is a player who was, those of us who, the 90s is when I was growing up, and goodness me, what a player he was, but he couldn't maintain it, right? But Mbappé does have that intelligence that he will, his brain is even fast, his brain is so quick that he will find a way of adapting. But for now it's just fantastic to see him play at his best, and for as long as he is in Ligue 1 and playing for PSG, I suppose those of us who are following French football every week, we need to try and enjoy it, because he might not be here forever.
We are going to each name our favourite Kylian Mbappé moment, game, performance, goal, whatever. But Luke, you touched on Champions League, the holy grail for Paris Saint-Germain. Is Kylian Mbappé, in the form he is in, enough to overturn this 1-0 deficit against Bayern Munich in midweek? Because that's a huge match. It looks like, Marquinhos went off injured with some sort of knock to his hip or midriff. Mukiele is out. Hakimi has a few issues off the pitch as well at the moment. Neymar hasn't played for a couple of weeks. Can Paris Saint-Germain do it? And the question is, can Kylian Mbappé, after what we saw in that cameo against Bayern Munich and how he changed the game, would Bayern Munich be worried about what's coming to Allianz Stadium, Allianz Arena in a couple of days' time?
They'll definitely be worried. That much I'm pretty much sure. But he does have that capacity to be the one-man show. He has been the one-man show, arguably, for PSG in many of these big games this season. So there's no reason why he can't do it again against Bayern Munich. I'm kind of quite wary of predicting this game because it just feels as though there's a bit of a destiny, kind of a narrative that just has to play out, which is that PSG just get knocked out again. It does feel as though we're kind of inching towards a Groundhog Day kind of scenario to me, where, you know, we're in March again. They have an early exit from the Champions League. Last year it was the 9th of March against Real Madrid. This year it could be the 8th. Then you've got a manager in Galtier who is sur la sellette. You know, he's in the hot seat. He's maybe slightly ejectable, but they're sauntering towards the league. But it's only one title, and is that enough for PSG? Potentially not. And, you know, if you say at the start of the season that PSG win 2 titles or 2 trophies are lifted at the Parc des Princes, you kind of go, yeah, okay. But if you say that one of those trophies is Kylian Mbappé is number 201, then maybe they'll be less happy. So, you know, is Ligue 1 in itself enough? I have my doubts, and I honestly do think this game tomorrow on Wednesday, could really go absolutely either way. I'm wary of predicting it, but Kylian Mbappé could definitely be the decisive factor because, you know, he was so explosive. He completely changed the game when coming on against Bayern Munich in the first leg. So, yeah, they'll be worried about him.
Andy, we know Paris Saint-Germain can do it in attack. At the back, can they keep Bayern Munich out? There's no Presnel Kimpembe, of course. He's gone for the season and probably into next season as well with that Achilles. He'll probably be staying at Paris Saint-Germain now if there was any talk that he could be leaving after rupturing his Achilles. The Marquinhos limping out of the game. Is it 2 at the back? Is it 3 at the back? Is it 5? How do you see it?
Well, I think that Galtier touched on got back to the ideal system in the game against Marseille with that back 5. It was a back 5 against Marseille, and it was the same idea at the weekend. But it is a problem. It's the problem of personnel, of numbers, of having the players to play that way. I mean, Kimpembe's absence is a blow. Kimpembe's had problems all season, and I do wonder if we'll ever see the same player again, to be honest, Presnel Kimpembe, because of what's happened to him. But in the short term, Marquinhos coming off with what looked like, I think it was it the ribs, like a knock in the ribs, or maybe a side strain. Hopefully he'll recover in time because they need him. Nordi Mukiele would be a blow. I think he's actually a very, very useful player for them, and has experience of playing against Bayern in Munich from his time in the Bundesliga. So they need to have the numbers. We'll see if Achraf Hakimi is able to come back in for that match. There are lots of problems at the back for PSG, and you know, when you touch on the importance of Mbappé in this game, he's almost even more important because I think that Bayern are bound to score in this game, and so you will need Mbappé at the other end tearing things up, and PSG are going to probably need to score more than once, I think is the reality. But with Mbappé, they can do that. But we'll see if defensively they can withstand what Bayern are going to throw at them, and if they have the numbers to play that way. Because I think with a 5, they are better. I think that really is the way. They were great at the start of the season. They have been. You know, we've not really talked about it really in the last couple of weeks because they've been fine again. You know, but previously they were on this bad run, and we were talking about why they're on this bad run. Now they're doing much better, and they've been playing with the back 5 again. So. It's important, but yeah, Mbappé is the key. Mbappé is the key. Of course he is.
Mbappé is the key to everything. Luke, your favourite Kylian Mbappé moment, and look, just because you live down that way, I'll open it up and give you a couple of extra years. But for Andy and I, it's PSG, favourite PSG moments of Kylian Mbappé, and to celebrate his 201 goals. But if you want to go something from pre-PSG in red and white. You have that liberty.
I mean, lifting the title was special, but not necessarily an on-pitch moment. But I will keep it to PSG because I think he's had so many moments. You've got so many to pick from, and obviously in blue as well for for France as well. I mean, the Argentina World Cup final, even though it didn't turn in their sense, it's still an incredible moment for him on a personal level to get that brace. But I'm actually going to go for last season and against Real Madrid. That's one that kind of lingers long in the memory in the first leg at the Bernabeu. Just a really, really clutch Mbappé moment, breaking through those two defenders and then putting it in the far corners. It's not the first time that we've seen Mbappé just take a game and just change it, but it was so late in the game. It's the 93rd, 94th minute, and it was just so clutch, Kylian Mbappé, and it's really what we've become to know him for a little bit. These kind of moments right at the end of games in big games, and just turning it. And it felt as though he'd single-handedly kind of turned, I don't know, PSG into this huge European side who turn up on big European moments. Ultimately, it didn't transpire that way, but it felt as though he had single-handedly kind of changed the nature of this club in that one moment in time. And another one off the pitch, I loved his extension kind of press conference last year in the summer. A few iconic moments from that, but the kind of change in voice when he goes, le football, il a changé, was a great moment that is kind of relived on social media on an almost daily basis. But just such a mature kind of press conference that, wasn't it? Really showed, he was 23 at the time. He could have been 33, honestly. So mature. And I think that kind of opened it up to the world, and everyone saw kind of maybe for the first time that, wow, this guy's a really eloquent, very, very mature player, as well as an incredible physical and technical specimen.
I remember his press conference at the Trophée des Champions. It must be 2019, because it was after that awards. The last time anyone had heard him speak was the awards night, where he'd asked for more responsibility from at the club and everywhere, and that things had to change at PSG, and no one heard anything from him for 2.5 months. And then at the Trophée des Champions, he was it in China? I think it might have been in China. He came out and he gave the pre-match press conference, and he just had a whole room of journalists just eating out of the palm of his hand, giving them headlines, giving them just what that, and dictating the whole narrative himself. It was a very impressive, and to see, and he was so young then, he must have been maybe 20. It was incredible. Andy, over to you.
Overall, with Mbappe, the most striking moment was the final in Doha, because he scored a hat-trick in the World Cup final, which was only one player had ever done previously, and the equalising goal to make it 2-2. Everything about, it was an astonishing goal in itself, and just the context. My jaw fell to the floor in the stadium when that happened. That was just something else. In a PSG shirt, I think back to the main COVID season, when 2020-21, when all football was being played behind closed doors, and I think back to, he scored an amazing goal in the counter-attack against Marseille, which, this is what I mean about Mbappe being electrifying. Look it up. I think it was February 2021. An incredible goal. And I think it was around about the same time that he scored that hat-trick against Barcelona at the Camp Nou in the Champions League. And he scored one of his goals in that game in particular was sublime. The problem with these two games and that season was that it was all being played in an empty stadium, and it was really unfortunate. It would have been something else if he'd done those, if he'd achieved those two feats in a packed velodrome and a packed Camp Nou. But that's an example of Mbappe delivering in two really huge matches. And this is the thing: there are lots of players who score lots and lots and lots and lots of goals, but might be flat track bullies. But he does it in the biggest games, and there's 3 examples: one in a French shirt, and 2 in a PSG shirt, of him doing it in just the biggest matches. So, there are so many examples we could choose. I think you mentioned the 14-minute quadruple against Lyon. That's a game that I missed. I can't remember where I was. I wasn't at that game.
I'm
Otherwise,
about to mention it, Andy.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned it yet.
Well, I'll let you talk about I'll let you talk about the experience of being there when that happened, because how long have we got? We could mention so many more, but there's a few for you.
Absolutely. I think, and just on the theme that you've both basically mentioned, with the Real Madrid goals, with the Barcelona goals, or the Marseille goals, when it was clutch, when it had to happen. There was also Bayern Munich in the snow the season after losing the final, and Paris Saint-Germain raced into a 2-0 lead. Bayern Munich came back 2-2, and it just looked as though Paris would get overrun. And with one chance in the second half, Kylian did exactly that, to win the game, to lift his side back up when the chips were down, and to make it 3-2 with a. What I liked particularly about that goal against Bayern Munich was the way he did it with a clinicalness, where you can see he now has so many strings to his bow. He can curl it far corner like he did in the 4-1 win over Barcelona. When this Bayern Munich one, he clamped down on it. He put it through the defender's legs, near post. I mean, it was Neuer was beaten, all ends up. Everyone was beaten up. He dummied till the defender opened his legs. He knew what he wanted to do. He put it straight in the place where it was unstoppable. And he's done it time and time again since then. There was the 13-minute quadruple against Olympique Lyonnais, which I think is spectacular. But another thing I like, which I think talks about the player and the mentality, was when he was watching the Clásico down in Marseille in the hotel room, Barcelona versus Real Madrid, and was late to the team talk, the causerie, as they call it in French. He and Adrien Rabiot rocked up late, and Thomas Tuchel said, okay, well, you're not starting now, and this was not planned. And Paris Saint-Germain playing the Classique in Marseille, I think he comes on about the 60th minute, 67th minute goal, and he was so worked up and so disappointed. I think we spoke to him afterwards, and he was kept his face up and said, basically, save face, and I have to learn, I have to improve. But you could see he was so angry with himself, with the coach, with the world, and he just went out there and destroyed Marseille himself in that second half. And that's what he can do, and that's the sign of a player that when they have this mental force, that they can change a game on their own. Kylian Mbappé has it in spades. He's 24, and I think we all agree he is the best striker in world football and probably the best player in the world at the moment, and he plays for Paris Saint-Germain. You're listening to Andy Scott and Luke Entwhistle and myself, Robbie Thomson. You're listening to Le Beau Jeu, the official Ligue 1 podcast. Like us on your podcast platforms, follow us, recommend us, share us with your friends, get involved in the conversation on Twitter at Ligue1_English or _ENG for English. We're on Ligue1.com and the YouTube channel Ligue 1 Official as well. Now it's time for our Déjà Who to win a mystery Ligue 1 shirt. This month of March, we'll be announcing it just before, or maybe just after the international break, I think, because I came up with a few more players that fitted the bill. So I'm gonna keep going with our March theme. So if you know the answer and you want to win a Ligue 1 shirt, send us an email to ligue1podcast@gmail.com. You have to find out who I am and answer the bonus question. So here we go. Déjà Who. Who am I? Over the course of a nomadic career that is still going and that has seen me win the Ligue 1 title, the Serie A Championship and the FA Cup, I have played with Sylvain Armand and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, João Moutinho and Bernardo Silva, Eden Hazard and Gonzalo Higuaín, Kylian Mbappé and Antoine Griezmann, Mike Maignan and Gianluigi Donnarumma. But I never played with Thomas Meunier, Thiago Silva, Sergio Busquets or Cristiano Ronaldo. Who am I? And what famous goal did I score against Manchester City? So there you go. You'll have to listen to that a few times. Check out the links. Try and find the club or the nationality if you think you can. Andy, eyes to the sky.
Don't know.
Tough one.
Don't know.
Huh? I think it's tough.
Yeah.
Luke?
I thought I had it at the second clue, and then it got snatched away from me brutally in the third clue. Yeah, not too sure.
All right. If you think you know who it is, or as producer Steven says, if you are part of the Dunning-Kruger set, send your answers via email to ligue1podcast@ gmail.com to go into the draw to have your chance to win a Ligue 1 shirt at the end of this month. Okay, we're just about done, guys. It's time to look ahead to round 27. We have some big matches coming up with a lot on the line. It all starts with Lille versus Lyon, Auxerre versus Rennes, Brest looking to try and put the brakes on Paris Saint-Germain. That result could depend heavily on what happens in midweek for the Parisians against Bayern Munich. Clermont entertain Lens, Ajaccio against Montpellier, Angers against Toulouse, Lorient, Troyes, Nantes, Nice, Monaco, Reims, and Marseille versus Strasbourg. Time to go on a bon voyage. Luke, where are you headed?
I'll stay local. I'll just keep it Monaco, Reims. Don't go too far down the coast, and then see if I can maybe leg it down the Mediterranean coastline to get towards Marseille, Strasbourg in the evening, which obviously has huge ramifications for both clubs. So, I think that's a really important game, actually. And I think it could actually go either way. I think there's room for an upset there in that match.
Massive match there at the Stade Velodrome, but also Monaco-Reims. If Reims can keep it going, Will Still's just the most remarkable story just about in world football at the moment. Andy, what about you?
I was going to say that I think Luke might need the famous helicopter, which at least used to go between Monaco and Nice for a reasonable price. Might need that to take him to Marseille. He was going to get there in time for kickoff. I was at the Marseille-Strasbourg game on the last night of last season when they scored very late on and snatched second place from Monaco because Monaco conceded at the same time. That was pretty special. That was helped by the fact that it was in May and people were streaming to the stadium, having been at the beach all day and stuff, and there was a certain atmosphere about that. I'm not quite sure it's going to be the same this weekend. I might go to Lille on Friday for the game against Lyon because it's two teams who are not quite where they want to be at the moment. I think Lille want to be in those European places, so they need the result. They're unbeaten at home since August. They play. I said this plenty of times on this podcast. They play really good football under Paulo Fonseca, who will be back from a one match suspension for that game, and a Lyon team who just haven't got going this season. And I didn't watch the game against Lorient yesterday. I chose to watch Liverpool against Man United at the same time. I think I made the right decision in the end because Lyon once again were very disappointing, a 0-0 draw. Obviously they need Lacazette to be there and to be scoring the goals for them to stand a chance, but that's a game they need to win because they're still nowhere near where they want to be. So that's where I want to be on Friday, Lille against Lyon, and then I've got the weekend to do something else.
Fantastic. Well, as a good Australian, I'm going to check out Lorient versus Troyes because I just think Lorient, they're in that soft stomach of Ligue 1, as we've said several times today, and I just get the feeling that Troyes, it's now or never, and surely, as Andy said, Patrick Kisnorbo, the pressure must be on him. From the City group, amongst others, they want to have their project playing in Ligue 1 next season as well, and I'm pretty confident he can turn it around. Don't forget, you can check out all the highlights on YouTube, the Ligue 1 official website, and also Ligue1.com, where all the video highlights are as well. We'll be back next week. Ian Holyman will be back to talk everything title race, European football, relegation threats, and post-mortem of Paris Saint-Germain's European campaign, perhaps just a preview to what's going to happen in the quarterfinals. It's all getting very real for PSG this season in the last 16 away to Bayern Munich on Wednesday night. There'll be another Déjà Who quiz, of course, with your chance to win the Ligue 1 jersey. More of that and everything else on Le Beau Jeu, the official Ligue 1 podcast. Andy Scott, thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure, Robbie. Thank you.
And you too, Luke. Great to have you on board.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.
We'll see you all again next week. Au revoir.
Messi again. This time maybe Messi's done it.